the drill elevator, preferably resupply beforehand, and start it. And so it begins to dig down.
You're going deep, right?
You're going deep, you're going very deep. And so you're going down.
Hey, what's up? Ghost Ship just did a live stream going through the next year of plans for the company on the 25th of April. In this, the team covered news regarding their published games, along with plans for Rogue Core and DRG Season 5. The focus of this video will be on the features of Season 5 and digging into literally everything I know so far that I can share at least. Before I can go through that though, I want to relay what Ghost Ship Games said in this stream, which is that there are no plans for Season 6 of Deep Rock Galactic until the early access launch of Rogue Core, which is to be slotted currently for some time in 2025.
So with Deep Rock Galactic, we have made the decision that we are not gonna plan or think about Season 6 until we are done with Rogue Core.
So that we know what we are facing at that point, how well has Rogue Core been received, and what should we do about that, and then where to take Deep Rock.
And doing something big as a season is, we just realized that it's really difficult for us. Basically, when we're working on stuff, we want to perform 110% on that. We want to, do whatever we are working on, we wanted to make it the best that it can be. We just realized that it's very difficult for us to do two things. So this is why we have made this decision.
If I could make money off of predicting people being weirdly mad about this, I would be a millionaire. I recommend to those people that you put your passion into something else, maybe get like a pet fish or something, go on a hike to like a state park, or, go to Yellowstone. More than anything, I'm just excited to openly hear from the team about Rogue Core later this year after Season 5's launch settles. I'm holding you by that promise, Mikkel. All right, with all the stuff covered, let's get into Season 5. Reminder that anything showed here is subject to change and likely will before it releases in June, so keep that in mind when looking through all this, yada yada. Okay, let's go. Season 5 Drilling Deeper is releasing in June and will be a nice reprieve compared to the disasters previously faced. There's no new threat looming over the planet this time around. There's no disease or robots or disease-ridden robots, which I hoped would be the case. They're peering further into the planet than ever before and finding new precious minerals to extract. The biggest discovery being morkite seeds, which is described as the original source of morkite on the planet, and is much preferable to the gunk kind of seed. To the surprise of no one, the company wants to get these, and this is where the new mission comes in, titled Deep Scan. In a deep scan mission, you and your team are tasked with finding a large geode that houses morkite seeds deep below the surface. To do this, you're going to have to use resonance scanners to find the location of it. Here's a quick step-by-step rundown for this mission type. Step 1. Find resonance crystals. Here you'll be dropped into a maze-like cavern that is pretty complex. On your screen is the telemetric rangefinder, which will show you your distance to the nearest crystal. Once the bar is full, you'll know that you're close to one. This part plays kind of like a treasure hunt with a metal detector. Step 2. Unearth those little crystals and hook them up to resonance scanners to pinpoint the location of the geode below. Obviously, you'll have to do this multiple times, and they don't have a defense phase. Once you're done with that, we have the much more flashy Step 3, which is Drill Elevator. Here, Mission Control calls down a massive drilling elevator that all of you stand on and defend from bugs. You have to maintain it and stuff. And then Step 4, once you've defended the drill elevator on its way to the geode, it digs through, and you collect the morkite seeds, deposit them, and extract. Here, extraction's pretty interesting though. You get these new form of jet boots that are modified to let you go back up the elevator shaft. Other than the whole rundown of how it works, I actually have quite a few things to talk about. Originally, this mission type was only the part where you search for the crystals, the prototype name being Hot and Cold. Lead game designer Mike talked about it with me while visiting the studio. On a dev stream later, he would describe this portion of the mission reminding him of No Country for Old Men, which was an interesting inspiration or point of reference, I guess. I thought that was neat.
I think the whole initial hunting for the resonance crystal. Originally they weren't resonance crystal. I just wanted to have this
Please hurry!
hot cold mechanic, and that's inspiration from a normal game. But also I kept thinking about No Country for Old Men at that point. When, the guy's trying to follow that suitcase of money, and he just has this little blinker.
What's the most you've ever lost on a game of Jedi? I don't know what you're talking about, mister. I need you to put something up. I've never played Jedi Boot in my life. Yes, you have. Your whole life you've been jumping the bush, flying around in the bush, you still know it. What you are doing now, you are traveling to the pathways of life like a boot through a cave. You are simply not aware of the walls. Mister, I'm not sure I'm following.
The elevator portion was inspired by just elevator levels in general in games, but in particular, he mentioned Alien Swarm and Streets of Rage 2. Deep Scan will be in deep dives as a primary, and they are working to get it implemented as a secondary objective as well, which will be fun. Mike also said they're adding another secondary to the deep dives, but we're not sure what it is yet, because he didn't spoil that.
Working on a deep dive secondary version for this mission as well as another deep dive secondary, but I'm not gonna say what that is yet.
Season challenges won't make you do deep scan missions, which is a nice change of pace this time around, making sure players don't get exhausted of it by having to do it so often. That being said, I think the mission type could have a lot of replayability if it's more non-linear, and obviously it doesn't have a big boss fight, which I'm excited about. It's been a while since we had a more non-linear mission type. In general, I'm really happy with the whole concept of deep scan. Not only are the objectives sounding really fun, but the theming is just really neat. I've always wanted geodes to exist somehow in the game. I just like geodes. Who doesn't? They just look sick. But having them be a massive cave that you harvest from is such a great atmosphere for Deep Rock. I just love that stuff. Being a little dwarf in a massive geode is good. That's a good thing. That isn't it though. There's another new mineral called core stone. It's sort of obsidian-like in appearance with some glowing purple lines going through it. And they'll say more about what this is in the future. Trust me, it's going to be cool, and I think it won't get as repetitive as previous season events have. I can't say anymore. There are 3 new enemies to encounter this season, 2 of which are stationary. The Barrage Infector is an addition to the good old-fashioned Spitball family, which has been around in the game for quite a long time. It's cool to see a new one. It adds to the ever-evolving pool of dudes that spit goo at you. But instead of dealing damage on impact, the goo projectiles become timed bomb-like things that you have to dodge on the ground. It looks really gross also. It like back of it where it's got all those little spikes. Oh, he's a nasty little guy. Next is Vartok Scale Bramble, which sounds like the craziest raid boss in an MMO, like a plant demon or something. So this guy spawns on walls and ceilings and can only be damaged by taking out nodules to weaken it beforehand. These are these little glowy bits that spawn roughly 10 meters away from the base of the enemy. So you kind of have to run around while it shoots the crap out of you, and you shoot the things and then you can take it out. Last but not least, we have the significantly less stationary Glyphid Stalker, which is a cloaking member of the family that appears similar to the Menace. So you can't really tell super well, but he's got the silhouette of a menace. This sucker will sneak up on dwarves and do a little electric attack that disables your shields and deals some damage. I'm excited to see how this enemy works further. I think it could have some really interesting AI and just interact with dwarves in a really cool way. They mentioned that when you ping it, it'll get mad and like uncloak because you found it, it's mad at you, which I think is really interesting to have the ping actually affect an enemy's AI. That I like that interaction. To deal with these new enemies, you'll have 12 new overclocks, 1 for each primary weapon. During the live stream, they showed off 4 early versions of some of these, but I know a couple extra details from one of the devs who was in my stream while I was watching the event. Engineer's Shotgun is getting pump action, which is an unstable that changes the weapon feel significantly. I'm excited to give this a go. I like the play style of making your shots count on NG with the Warthog. Next is mortar rounds for the gunner's autocannon, which changes the weapon from a hit scan to a projectile-based weapon. It was described to feel like a full auto grenade launcher, and I can't imagine a better way to sell this. I think it could be really fun to do and also do lots of friendly fire damage, so that'll be good. Good stuff. Driller's Flamethrower is getting a secondary action overclock, where when you hold reload, it spreads fire horizontally on the ground. This is similar to a few overclocks on the cryocannon, which have a hold R to activate sort of thing. Anders, who's a game designer at Ghost Ship, actually showed me this back in February, and it looked really neat then. It can spread flames further than the flamethrower is typically able to, so it could have some interesting use cases. Last thing shown on the stream was M1000's Marked for Death, which I'm super excited for. This alters the charge shot to do almost no damage, but instead it debuffs enemies on hit, making them take more damage and outlining them in red when debuffed. Giving the M1000 a support-related build is a neat choice, and the mechanic of picking an enemy to debuff for the team is a really fun co-op mechanic that I am confident people will like, trust me from experience. Could be pretty fun for elimination. A lot of these overclocks are going to have new stuff to give them a bit more flair, one of which apparently has new animations as well, so I'm excited to see all of these in action in the coming weeks. A few other things to mention. One current overclock in the game has been reworked for Season 5. I'm unsure which one it is at the moment, and along with that, I know the name of what I think is the Hurricane overclock this time around. It's called Cluster Missiles. I can't imagine it's for any other weapon, but we'll see. Obviously, I was expecting them because they said they were going to add overclocks this time around pretty early on, but what I wasn't expecting was Hazard 5+. This is an increased difficulty option allowing players to tweak 4 aspects of the difficulty to their desire. Aggressive enemies alters movement speed, attack rate, and projectile speed of enemies. Player vulnerability increases damage taken, with an exception on fall damage because that would suck really bad. More enemies, you get that one. Worth mentioning that this could affect performance on lower end systems, so keep that in mind if you're running the game on a lower end machine and stuff. And tough enemies makes enemies tougher. These settings are only available on Hazard 5 to make sure that Hazard 1 through 4 can still be communicated about without confusion. It would blur the difference between the difficulties too much if it was available anywhere else. Adding these on will increase your hazard bonus, of course, which is nice, and to unlock it you have to do an assignment for Hazard 5+ beforehand. This was by far the most surprising feature announced for me. I was like gobsmacked for a whole minute when they announced this. The developers have been pretty set on Hazard 5 being the hardest they want the game to be, but I'm glad they're adding this as a way to increase it. I like this way of implementing it where Hazard 5 is still like the highest hazard, but if you really want to go crazy, you can add on some little modifiers to make things harder. I'm mostly looking forward to the more enemies modifier. I have kind of wanted this in the game in some capacity for a while, and I can't wait to try it out. Speaking of modifiers, there's new anomalies and warnings this season, 2 of each. Blood sugar is the most complex of these. The atmosphere of these caves will be toxic, causing damage over time to the dwarves. The good news is the atmosphere also turns bug blood into red sugar. How convenient. That just worked out pretty well, huh? Kill enemies to survive is basically the concept, and damage over time will scale with hazard. Excited to try this out, and it being an anomaly means it could be paired with a warning. Secret secondary is significantly less complex, though I do think it's kinda neat. A random extra secondary will be added to your objectives, and you won't know what it is until you're landed in the mission. It's optional as always. Onto the warnings, we have Duck and Cover, which makes the mission more likely to spawn projectile enemies, acid spreaders, shooting Mactera, septic spreaders, you get the idea. Lastly, we have Ebonite Outbreak, which just brings the rock-covered grunts and Praetorians out of that machine event and into the caves. There aren't any new Ebonite enemies with this. Also, something in this warning will let you power attack more often, as stated by one of the developers. Speaking of rocks, but concerningly sentient ones, the Amryn Heart Stone has a new phase, and it has this crystal claw that's going to encase dwarves. They'll have to mine themselves out or get help from their team to do so. Make sure you don't stand on Doretta when the claw goes for you, as it will do damage to Doretta. This addition will make phases 2 and 4 of the fight randomized, so you won't always get the rocks falling and you won't always get the beamers. It'll be kind of random, so there's some unpredictability of the fight. Stages 1 and 3 will still continue to just be bug swarms as usual, though. Not only is escort duty getting some variety, there's also 21 to 26 new cave shapes tossed into the missions, increasing variety across the game. Not sure which mission types or where, but, there's new stuff coming. This is one of my personal favorite features. I've said it a million times. I'm super happy to see it again this season. Somehow there is still more to go over. How far are we in this right now? I'm 14 minutes into recording, so let's keep trucking. This one rules. You'll be able to reactivate older seasons once Season 5 releases, allowing players who missed previous ones to experience them for the first time, and players who didn't finish up the performance pass will be able to resume where they left off. This will appear in the season terminal in a new tab where you can select whatever you want to do, along with the amazingly titled Unseasoned option. Like I said, any progress that you made previously is saved, so wherever you were during the season, if you select it, it'll be left off where it was. If players aren't on the same season, don't worry doofus, you still get performance points regardless. The only time where you want to join lobbies on the same season as you is if you're collecting script for that season. The cosmetics that got moved into cargo crates, lost packs, matrix cores, and the accessory shop are all being moved back to their original spots in their passes and cosmetic trees wherever they originally were. This will make it a hell of a lot easier to get everything in the game now, since cargo crates and lost packs should be less bloated. If you have any more questions about how this system will work, there's a Steam news post going through a bunch of commonly asked questions about the system, so check that out, I'll have a link in the description. Since a lot of things are being removed from cargo crates and lost packs, they decided to put a few new things in there to be nice. There are 2 pickaxe sets as well as some armor and weapon paint jobs. Now we're going through the cosmetics. Of course, there's a free performance pass and cosmetic tree as always. And the cosmetics this time around are pretty killer, I'm not going to lie. The highlight of this for many people will be the Neotech framework, which I think is one of the coolest so far. We've got 3 weapon maintenance skins to unlock this time, all of which I think are pretty neat. There's a unibrow in the game now, which has been the hardest secret to keep for Season 5, I'm not going to lie. This weird curly pasta looking mustache is awesome. You got these wicked blue shades on this guy, they're pretty cool. There's these bug-eye chameleon-looking goggles, and those are hilarious. Throughout all the screenshots they showed off, there's a ton of new cosmetics and stuff, but I'd rather go through all of it once it's laid out in the season on release. To sort through the ever-growing list of cosmetics in this game, there is cosmetic filtering now in the wardrobe. It's kind of absurd how many filters there are to choose from, but I kind of love it. It's funny, and for me personally, I have like all the cosmetics in the game, so it's nice to have filters to get through it all. They're also adding some filtering for the randomize button, which is kind of cute. Onto a few smaller things from there, we have the promotion tracker that counts how many promotions past the legendary that people have done. I don't know why, but this is like a tongue twister for me. There's new player affliction overlays that are animated, created by Christian, who I talked about in my previous video. If you haven't seen that, check it out. They all look really neat, and I'm super excited to have them in the game. It'll just make damage sources more easy to read and look a hell of a lot nicer while doing it. There's a random mission selector button on the bottom of the map screen now. DLSS 3.0 support is getting added. There's some new dance moves coming. And of course, new voice lines for a bunch of the stuff as always. Before release, you can expect a few teasers for the season. There's the Armor DLC, the key art, which I'm so excited to see this time around. I hope it's like the drill elevator sitting in the geode and it's like all shiny and pretty. It'll be so cool. In general, I'm just happy with the rollout of this season, in my opinion. During 3 and 4, it felt really secretive, and I'm just glad to have these features openly discussed, showing off screenshots, and just talking about each feature with the community on the stream. I think it allows for more back and forth before launch and is just more in line with how DRG has been developed for the majority of its updates. This year's going to be super cool with this update in June and hopefully a bunch of news on Rogue Core after that. I'm super excited. The only thing is do not launch the season near Shadow of Erdtree. That's June 20th. Please do it like early June or something. Give me a couple weeks. Please go ship. Anyway, I'm super excited. I hope you all are too. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you to all the Patreon supporters for helping me make these videos as always. Thank you to all the people who watch these videos as always. You rule. I'm going to be on Twitter also. Here's my Twitter thingy, and I talk about Deep Rock Galactic, and I also am funny on there, I think. So that's cool. Anyway, rock and stone. I'm going to go work on the DRG Survivor video now. See you soon.